From wild misunderstandings at apartment 201 to unforgettable nights at the Regal Beagle, Three's Company became one of television's most beloved comedies. But nearly 5 decades later, what happened to the stars who made audiences laugh week after week? Some found lasting fame, others vanished from the spotlight, and several faced heartbreaking turns no sitcom could have scripted. Join us as we revisit the cast then and now, and uncover the surprising stories behind their lives after the laughter faded. Suzanne Summers portrayed Chrissy Snow, the sunny secretary whose innocent logic became one of the show's brightest comic engines. Chrissy was playful, warm, and instantly recognizable, making Summers a defining face of late 1970s television. Born Suzanne Marie Mahoney on October 16, 1946, in San Bruno, California, she entered modeling and television after becoming a young mother. She turned 31 in 1977, when Chrissy made her a national star. That success brought enormous visibility, but a demand for pay closer to John Ritter's led to a bitter contract dispute, reduced appearances, and her departure. The rupture shadowed her triumph, yet she rebuilt through Las Vegas, the hit series Step by Step, best-selling books, and the Thigh Master business. She also lived publicly with breast cancer for more than 2 decades, facing its return with characteristic resolve. Suzanne Summers died at home on October 15, 2023, one day before her 77th birthday, at age 76, after breast cancer returned. Norman Fell portrayed Stanley Roper, the suspicious landlord whose glare, cheapness, and private smirk sharpened every misunderstanding. Roper was abrasive yet oddly human, and Fell's deadpan timing made him a sitcom original. Born Norman Noah Feld on March 24, 1924, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, he served as a B-25 tail gunner in World War II before studying drama at Temple University and the Actors Studio. He turned 52 in 1976, the year he first took on the role. After decades as a character actor, Three's Company finally made his face inseparable from a name. Leaving the hit for the Ropers gave him leading status, but the spin-off's short life deepened the typecasting that followed him. Fell still carried a rich legacy from The Graduate, Bullet, and Rich Man, Poor Man, and won a Golden Globe for Three's Company. In 1997, he returned for one last sly appearance as Mr. Roper on Ellen. Norman Fell died on December 14, 1998, at age 74, after being diagnosed with multiple myeloma. Anne Wedgeworth portrayed Lana Shields, the glamorous neighbor whose pursuit of Jack added a sharper strain of farce. Lana was bold, self-possessed, and memorable because she unsettled the show's familiar rhythm. Born Elizabeth Ann Wedgeworth on January 21, 1934, in Abilene, Texas, she moved to New York, trained at the Actors Studio, and built her reputation on stage. She turned 45 in 1979 when she joined Three's Company. The part offered national sitcom exposure, but Lana lasted only a brief run, leaving Wedgeworth's full range outside the series. She returned to work that had already earned serious respect, having won the 1978 Tony Award for Chapter 2, and later brought warmth and grit to Sweet Dreams and Evening Shade. Her career moved quietly between theater, film, and television, never resting on one comic role. Anne Wedgeworth died on November 16, 2017, at age 83, after a long illness, leaving the rare legacy of a character actress equally at home in laughter and heartbreak. Audra Lindley portrayed Helen Roper, the affectionate landlady whose caftans, quick wit, and longing for romance balanced Stanley's sourness. Helen's warmth kept their marriage comic without making it cruel. Born Audra Marie Lindley on September 24, 1918, in Los Angeles, California, she began on Broadway before stepping away to raise 5 children. She turned 58 in 1976, the year she entered the world of Three's Company. After years in soaps and supporting parts, Helen gave Lindley her widest recognition and led to the spin-off, The Ropers. Its cancellation was a setback, but she kept working with unusual range rather than living only in nostalgia. She appeared in Desert Hearts, Troop Beverly Hills, Friends, and Sybil, where a final recurring role again showed her gift for mixing tart humor with tenderness. Lindley worked almost until the end, even after leukemia entered her life. Audra Lindley died from complications of leukemia on October 16, 1997, at age 79. John Ritter portrayed Jack Tripper, the aspiring chef whose panic, physical grace, and decency held the comedy together. Jack could turn a doorway or a lie into controlled chaos, yet Ritter never lost the character's heart. Born Jonathan Southworth Ritter on September 17, 1948, in Burbank, California, he was the son of singing cowboy star Tex Ritter and actress Dorothy Faye, and studied theater at USC. He turned 28 in 1976 when he began playing Jack. The role transformed him from a working actor into a television headliner and demanded the fearless physical style that became his signature. By the final season, he had earned both a Primetime Emmy and a Golden Globe. Ritter later proved his range in Hooperman, Sling Blade, Clifford the Big Red Dog, and 8 Simple Rules, where he led another hit when illness struck without warning. His death inspired the John Ritter Foundation's work on aortic health. John Ritter died on September 11, 2003, at age 54, from an acute aortic dissection. Richard Kline portrayed Larry Dallas, Jack Tripper's smooth-talking neighbor and unreliable best friend. Larry's swagger, schemes, and flashes of loyalty made him warmer than the playboy stereotype suggested. Born on April 29, 1944, in Queens, New York City, Kline studied at Queens College and Northwestern University before serving as an Army lieutenant in Vietnam. He was 33 when he joined Three's Company in 1977. The role turned a classically trained stage actor into a familiar television face and sharpened his comedy through timing rather than caricature. Larry also became a supporting figure trusted across the show's changing ensemble. Kline was the only performer besides John Ritter to appear in Three's Company, and both spin-offs, The Ropers and Three's a Crowd. He later returned to theater in City of Angels, Wicked, and Waitress, carrying a sitcom legacy without being confined by it. In 2026, Richard Kline is 82 and remains publicly active as an actor and teacher. Peter Mark Richman portrayed Reverend Luther Snow, Chrissy's stern father whose moral certainty made every visit uncomfortable. His authority was memorable because the comedy never erased his love for his daughter. Born Marvin Jack Richman on April 16, 1927, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, he trained as a pharmacist before studying at the Actors Studio and choosing the stage. He was 51 when he entered Three's Company in 1978. The role revealed a lighter side of an actor long associated with dramatic men and created a clash between innocence and judgment. It also introduced him to a new generation after decades of steady work. Richman amassed credits across more than 100 television series, from Kane's 100 and Dynasty to Star Trek and Beverly Hills, while also writing plays and books. He remained married to Helen Landis for more than 67 years and saw their family pursue artistic lives of its own. Peter Mark Richman died of natural causes on January 14, 2021, at age 93. Priscilla Barnes portrayed Terri Alden, the intelligent nurse who became Jack and Janet's roommate. Terri was confident and compassionate, replacing the dumb blonde pattern with a woman who could match the apartment's chaos. Born on December 7, 1954, at Fort Dix, New Jersey, Barnes grew up in an Air Force family and began performing after Bob Hope noticed her at a fashion show. She was 21 when she joined Three's Company in 1981. Entering after Suzanne Summers left placed her under intense comparison, and Barnes later spoke candidly about how difficult the production felt. Yet, she remembered John Ritter's generosity as the spirit that made it worthwhile. Barnes built a durable career through License to Kill, Mallrats, The Devil's Rejects, and a recurring role as Magda on Jane the Virgin. Decades later, she reunited with Joyce DeWitt and Jenilee Harrison, turning an uneasy chapter into shared remembrance. In 2026, Priscilla Barnes is 71 and remains a living link to the show's final era. Robert Mandan portrayed James Bradford, Vicky's protective father and the obstacle to Jack Tripper's hoped-for future. His disapproval gave the series' final chapter sharper tension. Born on February 2, 1932, in Clever, Missouri, Mandan began in daytime television before reaching Broadway's applause. He was 52 when he entered the Three's Company story in 1984. Already known as the vain Chester Tate on soap, he brought instant authority to a role designed to carry the series into Three's A Crowd. The spin-off lasted only one season, leaving James Bradford tied to an ending that never became the new beginning its creators imagined. Mandan nevertheless sustained a stage and television career, touring in Sleuth and later appearing in The Facts of Life and Star Trek: Deep Space Nine. His marriage to Sherry Dixon endured for 5 decades, a quiet counterpoint to many flawed husbands he played. Robert Mandan died on April 29, 2018, at age 86, after a long battle with cancer. Don Knotts portrayed Ralph Furley, the dressed landlord who mistook nervous bravado for irresistible charm. Furley's strut, suspicion, and wounded pride made him ridiculous, but Knotts left a human ache beneath the laugh. Born Jesse Donald Knotts on July 21, 1924, in Morgantown, West Virginia, he served as an Army entertainer during World War II and graduated from West Virginia University. He was 55 when he joined Three's Company in 1979. Replacing the Ropers was difficult, especially for a performer already immortalized as Barney Fife, yet Furley gave Knotts a second lasting sitcom identity. His precise reactions created a rhythm with John Ritter. Knotts had already won 5 Emmy Awards for The Andy Griffith Show, and afterward, he reunited with Andy Griffith on Matlock and appeared in Pleasantville. He continued performing as his health declined, leaving 2 characters loved across generations. Don Knotts died from complications of lung cancer on February 24, 2006, at age 81. Gino Conforti portrayed Felipe Gomez, the excitable kitchen worker whose fierce loyalty to Jack turned restaurant crises into comic confusion. Felipe was energetic and unforgettable, even in brief appearances. Born on January 30, 1932, in Chicago, Illinois, Conforti built his foundation on Broadway in the original productions of Fiddler on the Roof and Man of La Mancha. He was 49 when he joined Three's Company in 1981. The recurring role brought a veteran stage performer into one of television's biggest comedies and gave his expressive timing a wider audience. It also made Felipe the screen character most closely linked to his name. Conforti later balanced television guest roles, soap operas, commercials, and voice work, notably playing Giacomo in Thumbelina, while his film career extended to Angels and Demons in 2009. His journey connects Broadway's golden musical era with generations of sitcom viewers. In 2026, Gino Conforti is 94 and remains one of the oldest surviving cast members. Mary Cadorette portrayed Vicky Bradford, the flight attendant who became Jack Tripper's final love and the bridge into Three's A Crowd. Vicky was warm and independent, offering Jack a future beyond the apartment. Born on March 31, 1957, in East Hartford, Connecticut, Cadorette began dancing at 5, became Miss Connecticut, and earned a theater degree from the University of Connecticut. She was 27 when she joined Three's Company in 1984. Winning the role placed her beside John Ritter during the original series Farewell, and carried her into a new sitcom under intense expectations. Although the spin-off lasted 1 season, it secured her place in the franchise. Cadorette later appeared on Night Court and returned to the stage, but in 1999, she left California to care for her mother after a stroke. She rebuilt her life in Connecticut through acting, teaching, directing, dance, and an antiques business, turning departure into service and reinvention. In 2026, Mary Cadorette is 69. Jenilee Harrison portrayed Cindy Snow, Chrissy's clumsy cousin and the temporary new roommate at apartment 201. Cindy's accidents and cheerful innocence made her memorable during a turbulent transition. Born on June 12, 1958, in Northridge, California, Harrison attended the University of Southern California and entered entertainment as a Los Angeles Rams cheerleader. She was 22 when she joined Three's Company in 1980. The role arrived amid Suzanne Summers' contract conflict, placing an inexperienced newcomer under unusual scrutiny and comparison. Harrison's part was later reduced when Terri Alden joined, but the exposure opened a stronger dramatic opportunity. She went on to play Jamie Ewing Barnes on Dallas, proving she could move beyond physical comedy, and stepped away from acting after 2002. More recently, she has returned for reunions, fan events, and candid conversations about being treated as a sex symbol while enjoying life on her ranch. In 2026, Jenilee Harrison is 68. Joyce DeWitt portrayed Janet Wood, the practical florist who steadied Jack and Chrissy through 8 seasons of chaos. Janet was intelligent, loyal, and memorable as the grounded heart of the apartment. Born on April 23, 1949, in Wheeling, West Virginia, DeWitt grew up in Indiana, earned a theater degree from Ball State, and completed an MFA at UCLA. She was 27 when she began working on Three's Company in 1976. Cast in the second pilot, she became the show's constant female lead and refined a restrained comic style beside John Ritter's brilliance. Remaining through cast departures made Janet a symbol of continuity. After the series, DeWitt stepped away for several years, then rebuilt her career mainly on stage while supporting causes involving hunger and homelessness. She later reconciled publicly with Suzanne Summers and honored Ritter through reunions and foundation events, letting old fractures soften into remembrance. In 2026, Joyce DeWitt is 77 and remains active in appearances. And Schedeen portrayed Linda, Lisa Page, and other women whose appearances complicated Jack Tripper's romantic life. Her poised presence gave roles more weight than their screen time suggested. Born Luann Ruth Schedeen on January 8, 1949, in Portland, Oregon, she grew up on a farm and entered youth theater after acting classes eased shyness. She was 29 when she first appeared on Three's Company in 1978. The assignments came during guest work and strengthened her reputation as a dependable television performer. They also preceded the role that defined her public image. Schedeen later starred in Paper Dolls and became Kate Tanner on ALF, appearing through its 4-season run while enduring a production she later described as technically difficult and tense. Her family remembered an artist devoted to painting, handmade work, rescue dogs, and Habitat for Humanity. They announced on June 14, 2026, that Anne Schedeen had died peacefully at 77. The exact date and cause were not disclosed. Nearly 5 decades after the doors of apartment 201 first opened, laughter now shares the room with absence. John Ritter, Suzanne Summers, Norman Fell, Audra Lindley, and Don Knotts are gone, while Joyce DeWitt, Richard Kline, and Priscilla Barnes carried the show's memory into later work and reunions. Fame brought opportunity, conflict, distance, and survival, yet their characters remained beside them. Which face do you remember most? The apartment is empty now, but the laughter still waits behind the door.